As early as Friday, one of the most recognizable faces of the Catholic Church's sex abuse scandal will walk free. Paul Shanley, a former priest convicted of raping a Sunday school student in the early 80s, is scheduled to be released early, reportedly for good behavior in prison, after only 12 years behind bars. Shanley was accused of abusing dozens of victims throughout his decades-long tenure with the church. He is one of the few priests who was brought to trial because the statute of limitations on the charges were told when he moved to California. The Middlesex District Attorney attempted to keep the 86-year-old behind bars indefinitely by having him declared a, quote, sexually dangerous person. Doctors, however, said he did not meet the criterion. Once out, Shanley will be monitored by the state's probation department. Joining me to talk about all this are Phil Saviano, who founded the New England chapter of the Survivors Network of Those Abused by Priests. He also was the person who alerted the Globe Spotlight team to Shanley after hearing from victims. It's good to see you, Phil. Thanks for being here. And Paul and Rodney Ford, the parents of Greg Ford, one of Shanley's victims. It's good to meet both of you. Thanks for being here. Phil, if I can start with you. We know what Shanley was convicted of, but explain a little bit on what you believe he was responsible for and was not charged for.
Well, probably a couple of dozen other crimes. One of the interesting things about Shanley is that he had such a wide range of victims in terms of age, from grammar school kids to people in their 20s. Many of whom went to him for counseling because they were struggling with various issues as adolescents.
And by the way, he said he didn't sexually abuse any young children. That, of course, is not true. And he also abused not just little boys, but little girls as well, did he not?
That's true, yeah.
Your son was a victim, Rodney, at 6. Is that correct? What was your reaction to the release of the man who assaulted your kid?
Well, as a father, I was very upset.
Why?
Because as a father, and you find out what happened to your son at 6 years old, you want to do something physically to the guy. But you know you can't because it's not right. If I did that, my son wouldn't have a father. So I'm angry at the system for one reason anyway, for now, is that the two doctors have full control of this, and they really shouldn't. Martha Cloakley years ago said that Paul Shanley was a sexually dangerous person.
She was the Middlesex DA when Shanley was prosecuted.
Correct.
Yeah, and she, by the way, her office sought life in prison. Did
Correct.
she not?
Absolutely. And she did a great job in prosecuting that case.
But I interrupted you, so finish your thought about Coakley, if you will.
And the new DA, Marion Coakley, agrees that Paul Shanley is a sexually dangerous person. Now, you got two prominent people in the DA's office that said that he's sexually dangerous. Now you got two doctors that are disagreeing with them. And it's really hard to digest that at this point because they didn't have all the facts or information as far as I'm concerned.
How hard is this for you?
We bring up our children to do the right thing. We went through the justice system. We thought we had justice. We thought he would die in prison. And here we are again. And, you know, I feel like there are so many of the survivors and victims that, sadly, some are dead, and the ones that are alive feel like they're in prison. And here is this evil, twisted predator walking. It makes no sense.
I know how hard this was for you. I mean, I heard you a little bit today at the event with Mitchell Garabedian and Carmen Durso and so many other people and survivors. How do you think you're going to feel on Saturday? I mean, now it's a planned thing. Allegedly, he's getting on Friday when you know that Paul Shanley is walking, even though under probation department supervision, walking as a free man.
We have no control over that. We have fought the good fight. We know that we have done everything that we can. And at the end of the day, it all stemmed on the doctor's report. And I've spoken to the doctor at length. There was no altering.
You don't think he should be out either, Phil, do you?
No, I don't think he should be out, but I'm not as worried as many people that he's going to be a threat to children.
Why not?
Well, my understanding is that he's a very frail 86 years old. The other thing, he's so notorious, he's so well known, that I can't imagine that wherever he ends up living, the people aren't going to know that he's there, and the community's not going to take an effort and try to keeping an eye on him.
I mean this totally respectfully, because you know how much respect I have for you. Do you really believe that he's not a threat, or do you believe it's important that people think he's not a threat so their lives are not ruined by his presence. Do you understand what I'm saying? And I really don't mean it disrespectfully at all.
I understand what you're saying. I can tell you that I have a very active Facebook page, and I've heard from survivors all across the country in the last couple of days. And
because of this?
Because of this. And survivors are dismayed. They're worried that he is going to be a threat, and many of them are very, very angry. But in my mind, I think an even greater threat is all those priests out there who nobody knows where they are or who they are. We've got over 250 that were accused in the Boston Archdiocese. There are another 91 names that the Cardinal has chosen not to release. Those are threats as well. At least Shanley, we know who he is. Hopefully we're going to know where he is.
But no ankle bracelet, and even if he'll become out as a level 3 sex offender, it's not like there's going to be an affirmative outreach to his neighborhood.
No.
People have to go search the registry website, don't they? I mean, that's...
Well, but that's a fairly easy thing to do, and I think at least in this community, people are aware of how to
You're about to say
I
something.
kind of totally disagree with the way he looks at that. Paul Shanley never took the victims by force. He's a manipulator. He's a powerful man with words.
It's his
that's
voice.
true.
His
It's
voice,
his voice.
No, that's true.
His voice is dangerous. If he can't do anything physically himself, he can certainly do it by proxy. And he's surrounded by people. He was the founder, one of the founders of NAMBLA. You don't think when he gets out there he's going to surround himself again with these type of people and organizations?
I want to. I assume that in the case of Shanley, like so many other abusive priests, their collaborators, for lack of a better expression, were the hierarchy of the church, cardinal law, and even before. The current archdiocese puts out a statement today on Shanley's release. I want to read it. Paul Shanley's crimes against children were reprehensible. No young person should ever have to experience such violations of their safety and dignity. We continue to assure all victims of abuse of our prayers and our concern. Does that ring true to you? I have to say, Mitchell Garbinian was here a couple of months ago, and said nothing is better. Nothing is better here. No. Nothing is better nationally. Nothing is better internationally. Where are you in this, Phil?
I agree with Mitchell. And I always cringe when I hear them offering up prayers as a way to solve this problem or a way to keep children safe. One of the questions here is we don't know where Shanley's going.
Correct.
We don't know who's going to be watching him. We don't know what he's living on, how he's going to pay his rent. And I think this would be an instance where the Archdiocese, I know he's going to be a free man, but under perfect situation, the Archdiocese would step up and they would send him to one of these treatment centers and keep an eye on him.
How likely do you think that is?
Well, it's probably very unlikely, but you can also say that they created him, they supported him, they covered up for him for many, many, many years.
Yeah, but the commission on the abuse of minors set up by the Pope that is run by our own cardinal here, the last survivor quit, has done absolutely... How did... I don't mean to cause you more pain than I'm sure you've both experienced.
You can't do that.
Well, thank you for saying that. What impact does what Shanley did to your son had on your son's life?
I'm not sure people understand that this isn't just one. Just because it was my son, the entire family was abused. This goes way beyond Greg Ford. It impacts an entire community, and it happens in every family. It destroys people.
You know, looking at your face, this is like impossibly hard for you, is it not?
Very.
What are you thinking?
I'm thinking indirectly that Shanley really didn't pay for what he really did. He should have had life in prison, period. He shouldn't be walking out. The church created him. Paul Shanley raped, sodomized, pimped out girls and boys, molested handicapped people. And the church paid off victims. They moved them. The church paid off more victims. They moved them. They finally moved them to our parish after paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to victims. And what did they do to Paul Shanley? They gave him a pat in the back and made him pastor. They created Paul Shanley.
Would either of you want to talk to him when he's released? Or no?
No.
Paula?
He has no conscience. He's a narcissistic person. He does not admit to anything. He is not amenable to treatment, and might I add, that should have been one of the criteria in his being released, was that he has always refused treatment.
And that's the big thing that I can't get with these doctors. If you can't accept that you have a problem and issues, you're never going to start repairing yourself. He refused treatment in prison. He refused treatment every time he got caught by the Catholic Church, and they did nothing to him. It's a mind-boggling type of situation.
You said it very powerfully and well. Phil, thank you for your time. You helped change the world, my friend.
Thank you.
You did, and you two are really courageous souls. I wish
Thank
you
you.
luck. Thanks so much
Thank you very much for having us.
Paul,
Thank
really
you.
Thank you for your time.